There is a 22-year-old Nonito Donaire. He was born in the Philippines. In fact, his mom was one of Manny Pacquiao's school teachers. Came to California at 10 years old. Became a U.S. national amateur champ. He is 9-1. There's his last 5. He's won 8 in a row after a slip-up in his second pro fight. Fought Voropan, you see there, at 112 pounds, but he's finding it easier to find opponents at 118 pounds. And he had to do some searching to find an opponent tonight. He came up with Paulino Villalobos, who checked in at 121 pounds and took this fight on 24 hours notice. A 33-year-old from Florida, 23-29. He's been fighting as a pro since the time Nonito was 6 years old. There's his last 5, all losses. In fact, he's lost 8 straight, but he has done so against veteran contender Oscar Andrade, world champion Mark Touchard, and even Olympic medalist Clarence Vincent during that stretch. Scheduled 8-rounder. Marcos Rosales is your referee.
All right, gentlemen, we've already gone over the rules. Obey my commands and protect yourself at all times. We're going 8 rounds. Good luck.
Teddy, Villalobos is one of those classic short-notice fighters in a classic short-notice situation. And it hasn't been a successful mix for him recently in his career.
No, it hasn't been, but in all honesty, in all fairness, he's lost to good fighters. Yes, he's lost 7 fights in a row. All decisions, 2 of them a majority, 1 of them a split decision, and 1 was to a former world champion, another to a former Olympian. So all good fighters that he's lost those 7 in a row, and therefore this is a step up for Donaire. Even though, as you just said, Villalobos is 24, 29-2, and 33 years old, and taking the fight on 1 day's notice. Well, Villalobos has been competitive with a level fighter we don't yet know that Donaire can be competitive with. Even though we think he has the potential to be, we know Villalobos can fight at a certain level.
You just saw the graphic moments ago that showed that Donaire has 4 first-round knockouts. He only has 6 total knockouts, so 4 out of 6. He's told us yesterday, Ted, he says, I always go for a first-round knockout. Now, we're not seeing that aggression out of him early on right now, but he says, hey, if it's not there, I'll settle down. I'll see what works after the second round. We'll see if he comes forward a little more here.
Well, he knows he's stepping up in class with a much more experienced Villalobos against the much more better opposition Villalobos obviously has competed with, as we just said. And of course, also another thing that the younger Donaire has to deal with is Villalobos is a southpaw. So even though all the advantage we think of with Villalobos having taken a fight only on 1 day's notice, Donaire has had no time, Joe, to prepare for a southpaw, having found out this is his opponent only yesterday. But Donaire, the most important thing he has going for him is that amateur background. He was a very good amateur, and that's what makes him, I believe, a good prospect.
Yeah, that amateur career included the 1999 World Junior Olympic Championship at 106 pounds in 2000. He was the U.S. national champ at 106 pounds. And then, of course, went out for the Olympic team, but in the Olympic trial finals, he was defeated by Brian Valoria in a somewhat controversial fight. But then again, what fight at that stage isn't controversial? We always hear those stories. He said it was a real heartbreaker.
Well, right now, Donaire wants to be the matador with the bull. Villalobos. Villalobos coming in forward, straight ahead from that southpaw stance.
Complaining to the referee now.
And Donaire showing his versatility, showing his ability to use the ring.
You know, Teddy, this is interesting because what it is an equipment malfunction here, which the belt, the cup on Donaire started to go south. But is that necessarily more on the referee's discretion to call a stop in the action rather than the fighter? It's almost as if Donaire took control of the situation there. If I was Villalobos, I would have charged in.
Yeah, that's a good point there. It's supposed to be in control, as you just said very well, to the referee, not the fighter having the discretion to stop action.
Places a left hand, turns Villalobos around, comes with the straight right and digs back to the body.
Again, the versatility of the good amateur Donaire. He can fight inside, he can fight outside. That's given him an advantage with the one style of Villalobos.
Donaire and Villalobos. 22-year-old Nonito Donaire coming out for round number 2 against Paulino Villalobos. Donaire Grew up in the Philippines until the age of 10 before he came to America. His mom, Imelda, was Manny Pacquiao's school teacher back in the Philippines. And then when Donaire was coming up as a young pro here, he actually got time to spar with the Pac-Man. See the punches in round one, 16-2 edge for Donaire.
Talking about where you're growing up. Villalobos, most of his fights in Mexico, Joe, actually his first and only fights in the United States have come in his last 7 fights, which, as we've already chronicled, have all been losses, but as we've all also said, all to good fighters.
Brings up a very, very interesting point. 7 straight losses for Villalobos right now, Teddy, against good fighters, but still 0-7 in his last 7. You know, long flight out here to San Jose, so passing the time, I actually read the new USBC Senate bill that was passed by Senator John McCain, and in that they talk about approval and sanctioning requirements, and it talks about the new commission not sanctioning a fight in which a fighter has suffered 10 consecutive defeats in professional boxing. So if this bill, now there is a slip as he was rushing to the left. So if this bill passes the House, a guy like Villalobos would actually have to take a soft and easy fight within his next 3 fights to ensure the fact that he can be licensed to fight in the United States, because you can't go 0-10.
Well, that's where I disagree, because that's where you have to have a boxing person without the relationships, where you have to worry about, obviously, whether or not he's an honorable guy. But a guy that understands boxing understands that a guy like Villalobos losing 7 straight is different than another guy
totally an opponent
7 straight who maybe gets knocked out in 5 of those fights. This is a guy who loses to good fighters. This is a guy who knows how to tend for himself in that ring. This is a guy who should be allowed to fight, even with those losses.
I agree. You could have a fighter legitimately sitting on 0-9, but he was in tough fights against top-tier guys. But such is the case. Something to monitor. Of course, we will be talking more down the road. If that bill does pass in the House, that'll be a big change coming up for boxing, the establishment of a USBC.
Well, right now, the big difference here in this fight is the younger Donaire, just more versatile. He can use the ring. Villalobos cannot. The only way he uses the ring is to plow forward from that southpaw stance.
Lowers the head that time as he came forward. Straight right hand fired off by Donaire, and then a left uppercut on the inside, and now Villalobos testing him against the ropes. Another short left uppercut, and backs it up with a left hook upstairs. Does Nonito Donaire.
Donaire looking for spots, looking to counter, looking to catch Villalobos in between shots.
Donaire and Villalobos on Friday Night Fights. Back in the U.S. National Title Finals in the year 2000, it was Nonito Donaire in the red trunks who defeated Raul Martinez of San Antonio, a young man who's a very good-looking prospect that was featured recently on our ESPN pay-per-view broadcast from Caesars Palace, Teddy.
And also Donaire, who lost a very controversial decision in the 2000 Olympic trials to the undefeated now Brian Villorio, who will be fighting for a title soon.
So you can throw him in the mix with some of those good prospects under 122 pounds. And now he's putting his punches together. Good right uppercut from Donaire against Villalobos.
Donaire's showing he can sit down on his punches as well as be fleet-footed when he has to.
Digging to the body well. Comes with a right hand that time.
I like Donaire so far.
They call him Flash, pure speed.
He's shown me a lot of versatility. He knows how to fight. He knows how to counter. He knows how to go get it when he has to. He understands the technique, the basics that are so important in this sport to match with your skills, your abilities if you're going to move forward. He's calm because of that amateur background. Yes, he's got a guy made for him who's coming forward. I understand that. But it's also a very experienced guy, a guy who puts steady pressure on you. And Donaire's shown the ability to handle that pressure, not to start to wilt, not to start to behave in an improper way, which some young prospects do just from pressure. Right now, Donaire not using the jab, which you can use against Villalobos. He's deciding to let Villalobos walk in, and he's picking him up with big shots as he walks in. He's got the liberty to do that, Donaire. A lot of people are going to say, gee, he's getting away with not using his jab with this shorter, aggressive Villalobos. Yes, he is getting away with it because Villalobos not using his jab, Joe, just walking in. So it's up to Donaire how he wants to handle it. He wants to handle it with the big shots and pick him up coming in, or he wants to handle it with the jab. So far, it's the big shots Donaire is choosing.
Look at the confidence from Donaire firing off 2 consecutive right uppercuts. You talk about the lack of a jab. Villalobos just charging in without it. Only 11 total jabs thrown so far as we come to the final 30 seconds of this third round.
Well, Donaire has a clear window, real good vision where he can see Villalobos coming in, no jab in his face. And he's the taller guy. He can catch Villalobos before Villalobos gets into position where he can catch Donaire. So Donaire just tees off, picks his shots, and now he's going to look on the ropes to try to counter in between the shots of Villalobos.
Very, very strong round for the 22-year-old Nonito Donaire in control against Villalobos. See Nonito Donaire Sr., the father of the 22-year-old prospect, Nonito Donaire, who's coming off a very strong third round, Teddy. Put his punches together well.
Yeah, and big punches and selected punches. And here you're going to get a little peek at some of those selections. A right uppercut to the body right there. That hurt Villalobos. And that was a nice, well-placed punch. It shows you that Donaire thinks in there, he sees well in there, and he's got a good arsenal of punches, and then he follows up. But the experienced Villalobos able to survive.
Donaire was 30 out of 50, good for 60% connected according to CompuBox in that third round. Villalobos only 6 out of 41 for 15%. As for the power punches in round 3, 64% landed. If you watch this sport long enough and you take a look at the CompuBox numbers, you know 64% is a downright gaudy number.
We talked about Donaire and his amateur background. He has a brother, Glenn, who's also a pro. And also, just like this Donaire, was a top amateur who competed in the 2000 Olympic trials, Joe.
In fact, they both suffered losses to Brian Gloria, the Hawaiian Punch.
And both controversial.
There's a good lead uppercut, Teddy. Willing to throw those big shots.
You know what I just saw there? The experienced Villalobos at the last second saw that uppercut coming. And what he did was he dropped his right hand to cup it, to catch it a little bit. That's a spot where Donaire is cornered. If they can pick up on that, they can drop the hand, the left hand, just a little bit like they're going to throw the uppercut, and instead throw the hook. Maybe move Villalobos' hand down a little bit where he'll be open for the clean shot upstairs.
Well, they feinted the uppercut right there, Teddy.
Yeah, you see, he's seeing that right now. He's thinking on his feet.
For 22 years old and a guy that's only got 10 pro fights, that's a pretty decent experience move right there.
Yeah, I like that he saw that. He picked that up.
There he goes.
Calm.
Good shot by Nonito Donaire.
Now, he's very calm in there. Now, speaking about calm, a lot of people are going to say, how come Villalobos hasn't gotten tired yet? He only took this fight yesterday. He's calm. He's very calm. He can walk off the street and do 8 rounds standing on his head. I remember in the old days, in the old Gleason gym when it was in Manhattan before it moved to Brooklyn, Duran used to come in the gym. He used to walk in the street probably about 180 pounds, walk off the street, maybe even 190 pounds. No condition at all. Go 6-7 rounds like nothing. Calm, relaxed.
You can see a cut around the right eye of Paulino Villalobos in the green trunks. That developed about halfway through this 4th round.
Again, what I like about Donaire, he thinks in there, he's got a good arsenal, good versatility, he can box, he can fight with you. And he shows me he can sit down on his punches when the falling is there, and he can also move on his feet and punch on the move, on the escape.
Boy, some real promise among the bantamweights. Getting a chance a few weeks ago to see Raul Martinez, and now a strong look at Nonito Donaire. Some things to like in the coming years.
Donaire should start concentrating on an uppercut now with the shorter Villalobos starting to bend forward as he comes in.
Halfway through the scheduled 8 rounds. Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas with you on Friday Night Fights, a night in which Brian Kenny will interview James Toney concerning the steroids. A night in which we will see Jose Celaya and James Webb, two welterweight prospects, try to advance their career. And a night in which we just saw a rare CompuBox shutout. Look at the punches in round number 4 as Paulino Villalobos was unable to connect in 15 attempts against the prospect Nonito Donaire. Now, what's interesting about that, Teddy, is in talking to Joe Carnicelli, who's tickling the ivories on CompuBox tonight, Joe estimates about 5 or 6 times a year in all the fights we do between Friday night fights and Tuesday night fights and our specials. It happens 5 or 6 rounds a year. But most of the time, it's by a lazy, unenthused heavyweight. You very rarely see it from bantamweights, and specifically one that's coming forward.
Yeah, but the reason why, and that's true, that's a good point, the reason why, at least in my estimation, you see it at this weight class from Villalobos, 33-year-old who's lost 7 in a row, is he can lose 7 in a row, but he goes to rounds, like we just said before. He doesn't want to get stopped. Some rounds he realizes, because of experience with a young guy, a young prospect like Donaire, that if he doesn't throw punches, he will leave an opening where maybe he'll get cut again, get cut worse, or maybe get stopped. So his experience, he wants to go round. I'm not saying he's not trying to win, but he knows most likely, especially at this point, he's probably going to have difficulty getting a decision. And here he is this round trying a lot harder. But by not throwing punches in spots, he doesn't leave himself available, and he knows that he will not get stopped. He will be able to continue fighting, not wind up on the suspension list.
Something we talked about earlier after the fact that he's lost 7 in a row. There's a good left hand from Donaire. Donaire up on his toes now, lots of confidence. Friday night fights coming to you from San Jose, California.
And not to mention that
Joe Tessitore alongside Teddy Atlas, Nonito Donaire wearing the red with white trim, and Villalobos in the green with white. Teddy Atlas' scorecard, easy to read, a clean shutout for the prospect Donaire.
And not to mention, Joe, another reason why maybe you didn't see any punches from Villalobos. Taking the fight on 1 day's notice, we've talked about it. Understanding with his experience, maybe take a little pit stop. A little pacing going on. 1 round you take off because, as we said, his real goal is to go to 8 rounds. So he has the experience. He's not being lazy, he's just being efficient in his mind and in his case, because of the situation that he comes into this fight.
That situation, of course, taking the fight on 24 hours notice, suffered a cut near the left eye in that 4th round, and dealing with a very energized and a resolute Nonito Donaire. Coming to the end of round number 5.
Watch the young prospect Donaire. He turns off the ropes and he uses his glove hand to turn Villalobos into the ropes. That's a smart boxer. It's a good prospect.
Round number 6, scheduled for 8. We'll see if it gets that far. Nonito Donaire has been picking his shots and placing them well. You see the punches through 5, a 100-21 edge. And after the 5th round, the State Commission took a look at the cut of Paulino Villalobos and his overall condition. He's trained by Jesse Ochoa, who we see many times on our Friday Night Fight circuit, and a very honest corner man who said, you know, I want to give him at least another round. So we'll see how it goes here for the veteran Paulino Villalobos.
Yeah, the cut in the corner of the right eye of Villalobos that you just talked about, Joe, and that cut was caused in the last round, or at least added to and made worse by a head clash during that round. In fact, right after the head clash, you could see Villalobos looking at the ref and pointing out that, yes, it was from the heads. Better round the last round, even though I believe he still lost it for Villalobos, but that was after taking that break.
Yeah, it was 0 for 15 in the 4th and 7 for 38 in the 5th.
So a little bit of proof that probably Villalobos, a 33-year-old veteran, was pacing himself, taking a breath.
Understood. Comes in from the East Coast, 24 hours notice, in against a very spirited young fighter who they call Flash, Nonito Donaire.
Again, right now, if Donaire wants to score a knockout and really finish up sensationally in this national television showing here, he's sitting down on his shots. He looks like that's what he's trying to do. He's sitting down on his shots. Even when he moves, he's set. And right now, maybe he can give a little feint like we talked about before. Villalobos expecting that uppercut, dropping his hands to block that uppercut. Maybe a little drop of the hand by Donaire with one hand and then coming up top instead underneath.
A couple good left-right combinations moments ago. He's been digging in with that right hand to the body and then firing off uppercuts with it. See if he can do as you said, Teddy. With the feint, create an opportunity.
Again, Donaire has the liberty to just sit back, watch him. He's just watching everything come through that window. He has the liberty to sit back, Joe, and just watch as Villalobos, the shorter man, comes forward in a plotting one-way style, and he can just pick him off coming in with any shots he wants because he doesn't have to worry about a jab bothering him from Villalobos. No jab from Villalobos.
Another strong round from Donaire. He picked him apart in the final minute of that round. Well, moments ago we told you we don't know how much longer Paulino Villalobos could go on. We just found out he can't go on any longer. TKO stoppage for Donaire. Here's what happened. You see referee Marcos Rosales at the end of the 6th round coming over to the corner, as did the physician Smith Ketchum, and they call an end to this. For the official particulars, let's send it up to the ring to Joe Hallisey.
Referee stops contest on the advice of the ringside physician at the end of round 6. And the winner in the red corner, Nonito, the Flash Donaire.
So I guess the key to success is to have Imelda Donaire be your school teacher. She taught Manny Pacquiao, and her son Nonito looked real sharp tonight. He moves to 10-1 with 7 knockouts. Villalobos was tough, but now he has lost 8 straight. Let's send it back to Brian Kenny. BK.